Let me this is continuing on from chapter 4, part 2, or part B of the chapter 4 with this. One of the things I want to just tell you ahead of time is you need to know in an if-else statement what happens when the Boolean expression for false. Okay, so where does it go if you have an else statement such as this? So in an if statement, if this is false, this does not go through this curly bracket between the curly brackets for the thing. So since I have the array, I'm sorry, the average for the class average score for this. So this is the problem is in code listing number 4-1 in your book on page 197 with this. So here, again, you start to declare your code. You create your scanner, which is your scanner class, and you're creating as the keyboard. You prompt the user for 3 test scores. You get the first one, take it as a double data type because score is a double, so it needs to be reading as a double, and it stores in a double with this thing. So this is the part that is important, is that if the average that you put in, which is the calculation of the 3 and divide by 3.0, takes this average, which is this average right now. If this is false, where does it go? It does not enter this line of code. So that's important for the if statement for you to see. So let me take you on to the next program statement. What this thing is the if statements in this thing. So this is what the slide is about. This tells you if this is false, you do not go into this line of code of grade is equal to character A. There's rule of thumb. This the conditional executed statement should be online after the if statement. The condition executed statement should be intended for one level from the if statement. So if an if statement does not have a block curly bracket, it ends up with a semicolon with this. So again, only one line, one statement if there is no semicolon. If you have more than one statement, then you need a semicolon, all right? Moving on here to the multiple, this is what I just talked to you about with it, all right? Same thing, what we talk about is curly brackets and the statements with this thing. This goes the same if you also have, if only one statement is conditional executed. So if there's no curly left or right curly brackets, curly parentheses, it's going to just read only the statement. Okay. Note, if you recall, well, if you look at a flag is a Boolean variable that monitors some of the condition in the program with this thing. So when the condition is true, the flag is set as true with this. So what am I looking for? When you look at the average, you want to think of average as kind of like a loop control variable. It basically tells you the condition that if this is true, and then you assign true to the high score with this thing. So that's what's considered as flag in this thing. When you come down and you look at characters, can be tested as relational operators in this. Characters are stored as a computer using Unicode character. Unicode are stored as 16 numbers with this thing. Character as ordinals, meaning that they have order of Unicode. So if you recall in 1436, there's what's called ASCII, and there's Unicode, and there's EBIDIC systems with this thing. Here we're looking at what's called the Unicode character with this thing. So you have an uppercase A that's assigned to a char C with this thing. So if you look in your ASCII table or whatever this character is, it happens to be uppercase A in here, which is, if you recall, in the ASCII table is 65, and down the lines, excuse me, down, maybe add 65 and plus 26 to it, so that's going to be true in this thing. So 65 plus the letter Z with this, and you will execute A is less than Z, outputting to the screen. So in the if-else statements, when you look at the division, so if this is false, you're going to do the else statements in this thing. Again, if this is true, you would execute this line of block and code. And the concept of the curly, the left and right curly braces applies the same. So let me pull the let me open up the division one. I would like for us to take a look at the division one. This is the division one. That is what you have in your book. This is referring to code listing 4-2, page 203. And this is what I'm talking about, is this right here. So this expression, remember now, equal compares the left and the right. Does it equal to each other? So number 2 is what's been taken in as a keyboard and as an int. So you look at it the way how does number 2 equal to 0? If it's true, then you execute the statement. If it's false, if this evaluates to a false, you do the else path, which does this commands. Okay, so back to here, one of the key things you have to understand, going back to the UML, this is the class that's called payroll. These are fields and they're private. Make sure the dash, you understand the dash is the private. This is a double. The field, this field is a double, and these are methods, or what's also known as members, and their methods or functions are synonyms I'm using. So you have setters and getters in here. Alright, so setters you basically write to, and getters is what you read from. Alright, and these are the data types and how you start out with void. And remember in 1436 we talked about value and void functions that you write for this thing as well. So this is how you write the payroll class in this thing. Let me pull up the payroll class in here. So just to parallel with that, what we just looked at, here's the payroll class that that you are looking at right now. This is the payroll. Remember, this is the class. You need to use the instantiation of the class. This is just the class. So this is kind of like the blueprint or the template with this thing. You're giving these things. Right now, the way it looks like, this is the constructor. So this is, how do I know it's the constructor? This is it's the same name as the class, and the class is the same name as the file. So that's how you know, right? So whatever it is the first method. That's the default by constructor with this thing, and you have to initialize it with these with the fields is initialized with 0 with this thing. So public void status setters, and you're passing across is the hours. Hours assigned to this hour worked is basically when you set it to as this hour work with it as well. So coming down here, if you calculate the gross pay, so if the hours is greater than 40 hours with it, you got to calculate, here's the gross pay, taking it with 40 hours times the pay rate equals this gross pay, and this gross pay becomes later on when you actually update your gross pay with this for this. So this means gross pay equals gross pay plus overtime, and you can do this by calculating overtime with this formula with that as well. So if you work less than 40 hours, let's say you work 40 hours, which is by the Department of Labor is considered as 1 work week with this. So if this is false, it goes to this pay rate with that as well. So there's 2 ways, kind of like a little, think of this as a flow chart, as the diamond, which is this is what this class does. It gets all the setters and getters, but this is what is that when you see it's a decision where you actually can see if it's true or false. If it's false in this if structure, it goes to this. Now note, gross pay is returned because it's returning 1 value. Get the gross pay, and this happens to be a double when you return it as well. Okay, let me pause this for the end of part 2. All right.